Welcome out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and this is Inside Sources. And here is my take for today, entitled The Challenge of Corrosive Corruption Part 2. In the last 1 week, Nigerians have watched a melodrama that even Nollywood could not deliver. For reasons best known to him, the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Yahaya Bello, is trying to avoid answering questions from investigators regarding corruption allegations leveled against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And having been declared wanted, he refused to turn himself in to the authorities for days. In court this week, his lawyer said he is afraid of an arrest. It turns out that unknown to many people, besides the several other billions which Bello is alleged to have stolen, the EFCC has also secured a refund of over $700,000 paid in by his nephew, Ali Bello, who is the current chief of staff to the governor of Kogi State. He paid the money to the American International School in Abuja as prepaid advanced school fees for both of their children to cover several years. And we are told that the rules in the school is that you don't pay more than 2 years max in advance. But the EFCC, it is believed, is alleging that the Bello advance prepaid payment is first of all a proceed of crime, and secondly, that the payment being in excess of the current school fees of the children is a form of money laundering. When the EFCC interrogated the head of the American school, Mr. Greg Hughes, and other officials of the American International School Abuja, the school refunded the money, that is the $700,000, which had removed the current school fees of the children. But the question is, why did the American International School Abuja collect excess funds from the Bellos beyond the regular fees in the first instance? Since according to their own laws, they shouldn't take more than 2 years. That's the big question. More befuddling, however, last week, Governor Usman Ododo allegedly whisked his predecessor, Yahaya Bello, away to prevent the EFCC from arresting him in Abuja. Both of them, their conduct is a big shame on all of us as a people and a country. Why? Because the world is watching. A former state governor is running away from the hands of the law and is being aided by a sitting governor. We have a former governor behaving like a fugitive. But specifically, why is Bello afraid of arrest? There have been several governors who have had to undergo EFCC investigation and in many instances submitted themselves freely for arrest. For instance, former Governor Fayose, he actually dramatically showed up at the EFCC soon after his tenure. And he is even from an opposition party. But now Yahaya Bello, who is a member of a ruling party, by his own action, running away from law, with this public prank, may have damaged his reputation very badly. On the contrary, the EFCC operatives in this case, unlike what happened during the Rocha's Okorocha incident, they have exercised restraint by not destroying property to effect the arrest. And that's a testament to the maturity of the new leadership of the EFCC. We must commend that leadership. We must also commend the resolve with which the new chairman of the EFCC is pursuing some of these important corruption allegations. The corrosion of corruption is bad for us as a country and as a people. And when we find those who are trying to stop it, we owe it to ourselves to applaud them. So good job, Mr. Olukayede. As for Alhaji Yahaya Bello, you can still redeem yourself, Excellency. If you show up and submit yourself to the EFCC, after all, this is a playable offense. All told, like we said last week, wherever and whenever we see any appearance of corruption, it is up to us as a people to not only frown against it, but to ensure that due process takes its effect and that the suspects have their day in court. And when corruption is established, there must be consequences. The interest of Nigerians is larger than any other interest. And there you have my take for the week. Today on the program, we focus on the issue of press freedom. Sometimes last month, the Defense Intelligence Agency and arm of our military forces abducted a seasoned Nigerian journalist and kept him for 14 days in an underground cell, chained hand and foot. Today, Inside Sources is hosting Mr. Segun Olatunji, formerly of The Punch, and now the general editor of Fox News, which did the story for which he suffered detention for 2 weeks. What the DIA has done is an attack on our fundamental human rights as journalists. And so today, the journalist himself, Mr. Olatunji, is telling us the story in this TV exclusive. We also have a second segment, which is with one of the youngest presidential aspirants in the last 2 general elections, Adamu Garba II. And Inside Sources will be right back. Today I have a guest, a journalist who had suffered some harassment from military authorities. His name is Mr. Segun Olatunji. He's the general editor of Fox News Online. Mr. Olatunji, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Now, I recollect that a couple months ago, you were picked up by a military agency in this country and detained for about 14 days.
Yes.
Can you please explain to our audience what happened?
Yes. My abduction saga, began on March 15th. It was on a Friday. At about some few minutes past 6 p.m., I had just finished watching a program, Journalist Hangout, on TVC, along with my 7-year-old son. And then suddenly, I just saw some armed men, burst into my living room. And behind them, I saw my wife and my 14-month-old baby, both of them were crying. And then I asked her, what happened? As I was asking her, immediately, they came in, the man leading them, immediately grabbed my 2 phones on the table, on the center table, immediately grabbed the 2 phones. And I asked my wife, who are these people? Then she said, they came to arrest her in her shop, that they had seized her phone. Then I asked the man, who are you? Can I know you? The man said, no, that we are from the military and we are here to arrest you. I said, okay. I was just wearing my boxer shorts. So I said, okay, could you let me just go into the room and, pick up my trousers and shirt? He said, okay. As I made to enter the room, some of the armed men also, went to the room with me. So I picked my shirt and my trousers and then I came out. And
how many of them altogether were around?
Well, I could not immediately, ascertain the number of them, of those of them that came into my living room. But by the time we got to the ground floor inside the compound, I saw many others, armed men, in different positions. Then by the time we got outside, I saw many more in about 3 vans, 3 military vehicles, and 3 power bikes. Yes. So I saw, so altogether there were more than 20.
More than 20 people.
Yes. And and it was a combination of different formations. You had soldiers, that's the army, from the army. Okay. You had Air Force personnel. You had DIA personnel, Strike Force, and some others I could not identify. They were in Mufti.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what did they say to you?
Well, at that point, they didn't say anything. I just, they just told me that I should come along with them. And when we got outside, immediately they bundled me into one of the vehicles. And then my wife was even trying to ask them, where are you taking him to? They didn't even ask her. They just shunned her, and we drove off. But before then, my wife, when she was arrested, there was a woman who was coming from school with her 2 children. Arrested? Yes, in her shop. When she was arrested in her shop,
Oh, they had arrested your wife.
They arrested her.
Where was her shop? Was it in the same location with your residence?
Not too far. Not too far from my residence.
Interesting.
Yes.
So at what point Did they tell you anything that they think you was responsible for this action?
What? When they took me, at first I thought they were taking me to the DMI in Apapa.
Okay.
But when we got to PWD, where you have the Air Force base, they, made a detour and entered the Air Force base and then drove straight to in front of the office of National Air Defense Corps.
Mm.
Yes, which is beside the hangar of the Nigerian Air Force.
Right.
So they parked there and then they held me for over 4 hours.
Mm.
We were there. Then we got there, they handcuffed me. They handcuffed me immediately, we got there, and then we were waiting. I didn't know that we were waiting for a military aircraft from Abuja to come and pick me up. So by the time the aircraft came, it was already dark.
Okay.
So
at what time was the initial arrest in the house?
that was past 6 p.m.
When they arrested you?
Yes,
Okay.
past 6 p.m.
So several hours
Yes,
after
yes,
now.
about 4 hours after, it was already dark by the time
Probably 9:10.
So immediately the aircraft came. One of them just came to me, just seized my glasses, and then pulled a blind over my head. And then they dragged me and straight into the aircraft.
When you said drag, what did you mean? They didn't let you walk by yourself, or?
I was already blindfolded, so there was no way I could see. So they were just, pulling me,
Right,
oh yeah,
Makes sense.
So they asked me, oh yeah, bend down, bend your head, bend. Oh yeah, lift your leg. Then they put me inside the aircraft, and then it took off. I was still, handcuffed and blindfolded, and the aircraft took off. And after a while, we landed in Abuja. And when we landed, I was still blindfolded, and they threw me into another vehicle, which drove me to their office, with more soldiers. And when we got there, the colonel who led the team now handed me over to the officer in charge on duty there, who immediately, stripped me of all my clothes. I was stripped of my boxer shorts, and then now added leg chains. Added leg chains, and then now dragged me into the underground cell. The place was in total darkness when we got there. So he dragged me to the underground cell, and then they threw me in the cell.
Were there other people in the cell?
Yes, in fact, when I got there, I at first when they were pulling me in there, I was hearing people shouting. I thought maybe they were doing some other things, But later I got to know that they were doing a kind of a vigil. Those guys have been there for more than 2 months.
So they were praying.
Yes. And so I had to join them also throughout the period I was there. We were having vigils every day, and prayers at, the different hours. Yes.
So at what point did they start to interrogate you?
Yes. After they, put me in the cell that Friday night.
Right.
After some few minutes, one of them came. There was no lights there. One of them came and said that I was still laughing. I said, how? He now said, okay, give me your right hand. I gave him. He tightened the cuff on my right hand, and then tightened the one also on my left leg, on my right leg. And then I was groaning because, the iron was cutting into my skin. So I started groaning, and I was left in that state until Monday morning.
Wow. What day of the week was the arrest?
I was picked up on a Friday.
You were left in that condition up till Monday.
Up till Monday.
So Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yes, I was in that state, So until Monday when they came, and then they now loosened it. They loosened it. In fact, by the time they loosened it, the right part of my body was becoming numb. And up to this moment, this sand, my right hand, the back here is still numb. I can't really feel, it's as if there's no blood here. And then my right leg too.
Wow.
I've been treating it, but then, it's growing gradually.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So to get back to the question.
Yes.
So at what point did they now?
Yes. So after they losing the chains,
Right.
then they now took me to after a while, they now took me for interrogation. I was blindfolded again. And
You were blindfolded during the interrogation.
Yeah, no. The point is this. You are only allowed, not to wear a blindfold only when you are inside the cell.
Okay. Okay.
The moment you are, being taken out, you are blindfolded immediately.
Interesting.
In fact, they will ask you to bring your head from the cell, and then they will blindfold you immediately, so that you cannot see anywhere inside their office. You don't even know where they are taking you to.
Right.
But you know that they're taking you up, because they will ask you, lift your leg. You are climbing some stairs up. And then they will only remove it when you get to the front of the person who is going to question you.
So what did they say when they started to question you?
Yes. When it took me, about 3 of them, they took me before 3 of the interrogators or investigators. When I got to them, they first told me that we carried a story about the chief of defense intelligence. That's their boss.
Okay.
That we were abusing, the man. I said, that story was a general story.
What do you mean by general story?
It was a story carried by others.
Okay, what was the story about?
The story was about some lawyers, accusing the chief of defense intelligence of personalizing his office.
Okay.
Yes, that was the story.
And other media houses also published it?
Of course.
Okay, go ahead.
So I said, well, that was a general story. It wasn't an exclusive story. And then a group of lawyers spoke. And ours is to report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. They said, no, you were abusing. I said, no. You can't say that here in this case. Then they said, okay, that's fine. They now left that. They now came to the crux of the matter, which was a story we carried in January.
Okay.
About the chief of staff to the president.
Okay.
It's a story we got, and we have our sources. They were now insisting. In fact, they were not concerned about the veracity of the story. That was not their concern.
What was their concern?
Their major concern was, the sources. They wanted to know the sources.
How did you know that they were not concerned about the veracity?
No, because of what they asked me. They never said the story was not true.
Okay.
They were just asking me, you must tell us the sources of your stories. Who do you have in the presidency? Who are your sources there? So, I told you they had seized my phones that first day when they arrested me.
Okay.
So my phones were with them until I was released. So by that Monday, they had ransacked my phones, so they were able to now, they were able to now pick on somebody they believe, was one of the sources, Did
they try to arrest that person also?
I'm sure they must have tried to.
You are not certain up to now.
I'm not.
You don't know whether they've...
honestly, I don't know. I don't even know his whereabouts now.
But you suspect that...
Yes.
Okay,
go
ahead.
I think it's possible, maybe they have arrested me. I don't know.
Okay, so how did the interrogation go?
Well, they were concerned about the sources. They wanted me to... They asked me. They said, well, we know one of them already. From your phones, we have seen one of them. And, that now tell us the others. I said, well, I cannot tell you. I don't have. I have nothing to tell you regarding that. They now said, okay, since you don't want to do that, then you'll be with us for 6 months. We're going to keep you here for 6 months.
Wow.
I said, well, it's okay. Later, they now asked me to write a statement, which they practically dictated to me.
You should write?
Yes. That I should write that the person they found on my phone, that it was the sources, it was one of my sources, And
so you are compelled to do that?
Yes.
So you wrote it by yourself? They were dictating to you and you were writing?
What I should write, You
didn't protest that you're not going to do that if that is not the truth?
Well, there was something I could do because under that circumstance, I was just there all alone. At that point, not many people had known that I was, arrested by this, and not many people even knew. No, in fact, nobody even knew they were the ones who arrested me.
Did they read your rights to you under the, that even if you are properly arrested, you have a right to counsel and all of that?
They never did that. Never did that.
Okay, so go ahead. So the interrogation. So how the interrogation ended?
Yes. After I'd written the statement, they still asked me, tell us, your sources. They were concerned about that. They were more concerned about, tell us the sources now. Tell us. If you tell us, we will allow you to go. I said, no, I don't have anything more to tell you. At least you said you have found somebody and you have asked me to put his name there. You have done that. So They got angry and said, okay, now since you're not going to tell us that, they now called the man who brought me.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, come and take him back. That one immediately, put the blindfold again and then dragged me back. And then they dumped me in the cell.
So this was happening on the Monday?
On the Monday, yes.
Okay. So what happened next?
Yes, then on Tuesday, that's the next day, they now asked them to bring me again.
Okay.
Were
you being interrogated by the same set of people?
The same set of people.
Do you know them?
Yes, if I see them, I will know.
Okay.
I will know.
But you couldn't tell their names?
No.
They weren't wearing
because in their office, you won't find anything. Nothing is written there. Nothing.
And they weren't wearing their uniform that we normally carry?
No uniform. Nothing. You won't see anything. You won't see anything.
You won't see anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are intelligence people.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't even see anything. Nothing is written there. Nobody's name is on the table. Nothing. You won't even see the name of the agency inside their office. So you won't know.
Right.
So
what did they do the next day?
So the next day they asked them to bring me again. When they brought me to them, they still asked me, you haven't told us your sources. We need to know who are the people you have in the villa giving you all this information. We know you have been writing not only these stories, this particular story, you have been writing some other stories. Let us know. If you let us know, we'll allow you to go. If you let us know, in fact, they told me, if you let us know, within 48 hours, we'll let you go. I said, well, I don't have anything to tell you. I don't have anything more to tell you. You made me to write a statement yesterday. I think that should be enough for you.
So, yeah. So
then they said, this man, you are not serious. You're going to stay long here. You stay 6 months here. We'll dump you in the cell. You'll be there for 6 months. Nobody will talk to you. Then they asked the man to take me back. And then he took me back. And that was all. So
they now left you there for the rest of the...
Until that March 28 or so.
So do you remember what date were you detained? Were you arrested?
That was in March 15th.
March 15th. And you were there up till when?
Up till, I think I was released on March 28th or so.
28th, okay. All right. So what was the condition, how do you describe the conditions of your detention, generally?
Well, it was...
Did you suffer any kind of torture? Beyond what
the point is that no, it's not severe. No. There was nothing like what I would call body contact. No.
Okay.
Nobody hit me. Nobody, But the psychological, torture alone.
Yeah.
Some of them, they will threaten you. Subtle and open threats. Telling me.
And when you flew from Lagos to Abuja, when you got inside the aircraft, did they remove the hood?
They didn't.
So
and I was also handcuffed all through the journey. They didn't.
So how about your feeding when you were there?
Well, they will bring some kind of food, like sometimes they will give us 3 slices of bread.
Okay.
3 slices of bread.
Breakfast.
Yes, for breakfast.
Bread
and
with
then
what?
Those who will take tea will take, me, I never took their tea. I refused and they got angry. And their beans, I said, no, I won't take those 2 things. I will not, So
you were living on bread?
Yes, they'll give me 3 slices. Then I will go into the toilet to go and drink water with my bare hands, directly from the tap. Yes.
So what else did they serve you besides bread? What about lunch?
They also served us.
Did you eat twice a day or 3 times a day?
No, they were bringing 3 times.
So they will bring bread and what?
Then sometimes they will bring, I don't know whether to call it jollof rice or concussion now that students eat, Then some other times they will bring, a solid, maybe a bar or sebo or something. But the point is that this food they bring, they are so small that, they cannot satisfy even a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Now, but generally, how did the whole saga make you feel?
Well, it was, the experience was, chilling, terrifying, because, I've never had it so, so bad with security agencies. I've had some brushes with them in the past. When I was in Kaduna for Punch, and when I was in Abeokuta, but I didn't take it. It wasn't this, so so sad, so bad. Because in this case now, nobody knew where I was. Anything could have happened. If they had wanted, in fact, they told me if they had wanted, they could have killed me. And then nobody would know anything. And you could see that from the attitude, because from what I learned, they kept denying until maybe March 27th or so, when the IPI came out pointedly and told them, you're having this man in your custody. He's there. You have to release him. And then the NSA and the Minister of Information, intervened. Up to that moment, they denied. And so within that period, they could have done anything to me. And then, in fact, they told me, yes, that they could have done anything. They could have killed me. And nobody will know.
That's true. Now, so regarding the story, you said they did not doubt the veracity.
They never asked me anything about that.
So clearly, you guys you are insisting on your story.
Of course, we stand by it.
They didn't even question.
We still stand by it.
They didn't question the veracity.
No.
They were only interested in
the sources.
Now, how will you describe what has happened next? Because the MPO, BONNUJ, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Nigerian Press Organization, Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Nigerian Institute of Journalists, Nigerian Guild of Editors, and IPI, International Press Institute. All of them have spoken about this matter.
Yes.
How does that make you feel? And what has happened to you since after your release?
Well, I want to thank all of these bodies, because the solidarity they have displayed in my case, is overwhelming, to me, because I never expected that, all of them will rise, to this occasion. They have really, really tried. And I'm happy the steps they have taken. Yes, I'm happy about that.
As the DIA, have they gotten in touch with you since your release?
No. And I don't think they will ever do that.
Okay. And then the day they released you on March 28th, how did it go?
Well, it was another thing. Honestly, it was another thing.
Can you summarize it?
It was a kind of another gangsteric, operation, my release. Because when they came to me, I think very early on March 28th, that should be about past 12 midnight of March 27th, they just came to me. I just saw them, they came to me and said, who do you know in Abuja that can guarantee your release? I said, I quickly mentioned my friend, Yomi Odunuga.
Okay.
They now said, okay, do you have his...
Yomi Odunuga used to be with The Nation.
He's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there. I think he's... yes. They said, do you have him on your phone? I said, yes. They quickly ran and brought my phone. When they opened my phone, they said, is this the name? I couldn't see. I said, well, there's no way I will see, because they took my glasses that March 15th.
So they denied you of your glasses?
Yes, they took my glasses
from the time you were arrested?
Yes.
And you never had...
Yes. They only brought it, to me when they asked me to write the statement.
Did you let them know that you use your glasses for purposes of...
I told them. Okay. Because when they asked me to write the statement, I told them, well, you have to bring my glasses. Then they went and brought it. Okay. Immediately I finished, they took it back.
Even the day they were going to release you?
The day they were going to release me, that was when they now give it back to me.
Okay.
It was at that point, at that moment.
And I got it back.
So when they brought my glasses, I said, okay, this is his name. They now said, okay. They now left and went away. So I think they now went...
What time of the day was this?
There's no way you could know the time.
Okay.
Because when you are there, you don't know daytime, you don't know anything, Everywhere is dark, and then... So I think they now went and called him. They went and called my friend. That should be maybe before 4 a.m. or so. They called him and he picked, and they now told him, how could they now told him, go to in front of ECOWAS Secretariat and wait for us there now to receive your friend. My friend was afraid. He said, how can I come out at this time of the day? It's still too early.
Is it like 4 a.m.?
I'm not sure it's even up to 4 a.m.
Okay.
So he told them, it's still too early. He cannot come there at this time of the day, of the night. No. He can't come. He won't come until, 9 a.m. They got angry and said, okay, they now cut him off. So after a while, they now called him back. They now said, okay. So he said, 9 a.m. he will be there.
Okay.
So Meanwhile, they had come to me earlier. They brought my clothes.
Okay.
You know, they brought my clothes to my cell and said I should remove the cell because they have this uniform that they wear. So they asked me to remove it and then, you know, put on my own clothing and all that. So when my friend said 9 a.m., they now said, okay, they should return me to the cell. Then they returned me to the cell. They say blindfolded me, returned me to the cell, you know. So we now waited. So when it was 9 a.m., my friend now called them that he was ready, that he was already there. So they now took me again. It was at that point that they now took me and then, you know, took me into a van, still blindfolded.
Okay.
You know, took me into their van.
They took you to a van? Where were they driving you to?
I didn't know.
Oh, they didn't bring the people that were going to receive.
They didn't ask them to come to the office. No. They did not do that.
So where were you?
That's why I described the thing as gangsteric. Because, you know, when they now took me into their van, they started driving. The driving was so rough, you know. So after a while, they now called my friend. Are you at the aircraft sector? He said, yes. They now said, no, leave that place. Now go in front of the Catholic church. My friend now said, okay. He now went. When he got there, he called. When he called, they now said, no. Now drive towards DSS quarters. My friend now started driving towards that place. By the time he got there, he now called, said that he was there.
All of those are in Asokoro.
Yes, they now said, no, leave that place. Now drive towards a particular road. I don't know that road. You know, my friend now said, okay. They described the road to him. He now said, okay. Before he got to that road, they now called him again and said, no, now come towards a particular bridge. By then, we had got to that bridge. They had stopped under the bridge.
Okay.
They had stopped. I was say blindfolded, they had stopped, you know. So my friend had described his car that was coming in, you know, to them. So when they saw that the car was coming behind us, they now called him and said, is that your car? He now said, yes. He now said, okay, park far away.
Okay.
Then, you know, alight and then you see us. You see the vehicle, you know, they now describe the vehicle. Then, so immediately my friend parked. He now came with the NG Secretary General.
The NG.
NG.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigerian Guild of Editors Secretary General, yes. He now came with him. So as they were coming, approaching us, it was at that moment that they now removed the blindfold from my head. And that would be the first time in 14 days that I will see sunlight.
Wow.
They quickly removed it. They didn't want them to see that I was being blindfolded. So they quickly removed it. Then, you know, when they came, they now said, okay, you have to sign a bail bond, you know.
Who signed the bail bond?
My friend, Yomi Oduniga. You know, the document they gave him did not have anything, no letterhead, nothing. You know, it didn't show whether it's a DIA or whether it's, you know,
didn't say the name
DMI or whatever. Just, you know, so they just gave him that I should sign that. The condition is that, you know, whenever they need me in court, they will have to produce me. He said, there's no problem. He signed.
Which court did, being military, which court did they have in mind?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know,
meanwhile, before they, you know, took me in the van, before they took me away from their office, they had asked me to now write under that statement. And they now asked me to now write an apology to the chief of staff to the president, Bajabe Amila, that, you know, that I'm sorry for writing the story and that I will no longer be a terrorist, because they also accused me of terrorism.
At what point?
Well,
at what point did they accuse you of terrorism?
No, that first day they took me to
the interrogation.
They said, yeah, I was engaged in terrorism.
So you wrote an apology.
They asked me to now write an apology under, you know, that statement. They dictated what I would write.
Okay.
And then I wrote.
And then you signed it.
I signed. Then they took my photographs, you know, the front view.
Did you make it clear to them when you were writing those things that it was against your will?
What? I didn't really say that expressly.
But it was.
But they knew.
No, I'm asking you now. Of
course, they knew. They dictated everything. You know?
And it was clear, you know, to them.
Yes.
And you weren't doing this of your free volition. That's
Of
my
course,
point.
of course, they will
It's
know.
important to make that point.
They will know. At least from my disposition, they know. They knew.
So they released you on the street.
Honestly. So when my friend and the NG secretary came, they now released me to them. After my friend had signed and they had thumbprinted, they now said, okay, you can have him. Then it was at that point that they now returned my 2 phones, my glasses, the money they found in my pockets, and some other things, my ID cards and all that, my ATM cards and all that, now return everything to me.
Right on the street.
Yes. And then they immediately zoomed off.
Okay.
They zoomed off from the scene.
Interesting. Thank you so much for this narration.
Yeah.
And it's important, to hear directly from you what had happened to you.
Yes.
And I thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
And it's important, to commend the Minister for Information and also the National Security Advisor, and to also commend the Nigerian Guild of Editors, IPI, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and all the media groups that rose to ask and demand for the release of Mr. Segun Olatunji. The only thing left to say is that this is not a good showcasing on behalf of the Nigerian military. What had happened to Mr. Segun Olatunji, it's important for the Chief of Defense Staff to conduct an investigation and ensure that this kind of harassment does not happen under a democratic government. It is bad for the military and it's not good for the president. And by all means, it's bad for our country. We cannot treat a journalist the way Mr. Olatunji has been treated. And that's the point that the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, IPI, and all the other groups have said that you cannot militarize the media space. If there was a problem with the story that was published, the right thing to do is to follow due process, civilian due process. But like we said, we thank those who stood up in government and ensured that Mr. Olatunji was released. And there you have it.